Hey guys, how's it going and welcome back. So I figured it's time to do the review on the Boss GT-100 Cosm Amp Effects Processor. This is actually a really awesome board. It's got a lot of inputs, outputs, USB, all that jazz. It's a lot like the GT-1000 in a lot of ways. One of the best things it does have in common, of course, with the GT-1000 board, which is Boss's flagship board, top of the line, which I did have that one, but it wasn't being used to its fullest potential. And I only need so many different effects anyways and features. This offers me all the same sort of deal as the 1000. I can name my patches any way I want. I can change the pedal order to any way I want to. It deals with the outputs and inputs that I need, which is fine. Now instead of having 5 stomps across the bottom, you have 4 on this one. Different location for bank up and down. The looper is in a nicer position for doing your looping, and it has this Excel/control that you can assign for different things, which is actually really cool. When I first got the board, the one thing I noticed was with the tuner, I'd activate it and I'm still hearing it, and it's like, okay, even the GT kind of killed the sound, right? Because you want to tune in privately, especially on stage. You know, it's like very embarrassing if they hear you. So I started to fiddle around with the board and found out that I could actually do this as a mute. So I've got my Epiphone Les Paul Special 2 out, and it's a little out of tune. So if you hold down these two together, you get the tuner and you have access to a metronome. And your number 4 control here, right now it says mute for output. You can go through or bypass or mute. And so we're going to go with mute, and we're going to actually tune this sucker up. Now the tuner on this thing is extremely sensitive. I've actually been using this tuner now for setting intonation on guitars, and you know, it is really good. So I'm quite pleased with the response on this thing. It's just amazing. And as you can see, everything goes nice and black when you're on pitch. Wow, 3 had to be tuned and 3 didn't. So push them both down again and get it back. Now the one thing I want to point out too, I found out I had a funny when I did my first intonation with this, is where it says pitch over here, tells you the hertz. I hadn't noticed that it was at 431. So I'm like, okay, this guitar is sounding kind of funked, you know, and turns out I did alter that and change it to 440, and once you set it, it holds its memory. So even if you've unplugged the board and plugged it back in, it seems to hold fine, so when it's programmed. Anyway, so we're going to start with this little high gain stack. We're just going to go through a couple of different effects. And I'm using my orange 35RT amp. I am recording this on a camcorder, by the way. It's my only option. But without doing a whole lot of rearranging in here anyways, then I could do it another way. But I wanted you guys to also be able to hear the sound of this amp for itself. And how it runs the effects, because every amp has a different voice, different speakers in them, and you're going to have variations with the same effects on different amps, obviously. And I kind of do really like the orange matched with this, but I also love it matched with my new Boss Katana Mark II amp when I go through the power amp in section and bypass the Katana's onboard preamp. But anyways, let's have a little bit of fun here. So as you can hear just by listening to the chord, it's tuned. It's nice and solid the way it should be. And I intonated this guitar with this pedal board. And I can still go back to any other tuner I want and tune the guitar, and it's still fine. So there's not a problem when you go and you use a different tuner later. Number 2 is going to be a Taro Echo. Kind of a neat effect. Natural clean. Now if you want to change something about it, if you hold down the 2 bank buttons, now you've got access to separate stomps. So let's press number 2. That's an overdrive. And we can turn off the chorus and delay. And that Excel pedal. Okay, now we can change that pedal to do other things. B solo. Not sure what that actually is about. Dual compressors. And it affects both at the same time. You can also go back to number 1 and it'll reactivate. Our overdrive. So FX1 or FX2. So we want to change that to a reverb. So it keeps that sound plus adds the reverb. Put on the other one, FX1. Okay, so getting out of there. Now if we go back to that other effect, because we didn't write any changes or save any changes, it goes right back to that preset. Now I haven't programmed any of the presets in this thing yet. I've just left it the way it is and I've just been messing around with it, just getting used to different things and listening as I go and see what I'm really liking and not liking. This is called Power Metal Riff. Compare it to high gain stack. Overdrive 1 plus distortion. Layered sound. I guess Fender Blues Crunch is what they're trying to say on this one. Now the acoustic sim straight is kind of nice. Now of course we can go back in. I want some chorus on that. A little bit of compression. Now you've got EQ on this as well. Depending on the effect, depends on what they give you access to on this whole manual stuff, but so just with the reverb. See what the FX2 is. So then of course from here we go back, and if we need to adjust things like the low, the mid, the high, I don't know what pat LV is supposed to mean, but you mess with it, you'll find out. Gain controls, of course, channel AB stuff, patching. You can further tweak things, especially on your environment. You know, like you set it up at home here, and it's like, oh, this sounds great. But then you get to your gig, and it's like, well, I could definitely use more mids. You know, turn up the mids a bit. Still a little on the side. It's like too much lows. So we're going to kick back the lows a bit, and we'll bring up the highs a little more. So you can customize it and really clean it up even more and more. And if you want to save those changes, all you got to do is hit the right button and save it. And now doing it manually from the board, I've not tried to name a patch from board level, but from the software, definitely a walk in the park. Okay, and you do have 50 user banks with 4 in each, and then you have 50 preset banks, 4 in each. So that gives you a boatload of options for programming. Like I said, this thing, how do I say this? Okay, the GT-100 has more presets available, okay, because you got 5 switches across instead of the 4, okay, so you do have a lot more presets available. Either board, you can name the presets any way you want. Accessing stuff at board level for tweaking, equally the same on each, and of course you can write it so that if you go back to that song later in your gig, you want to repeat that song, and then you can, and you've already got the patch program, right? So you can do stuff on the fly, write it on the fly really quickly if you had to, you know, that sort of thing. It's so simple and easy to use. You know, even the GT-1000 is very simple and easy to use. There are some things at board level, like if you wanted to try naming your patch, I don't know, that's what I was trying to say. You want to try naming your patch something different than what's there at board level. I haven't tried that, so I don't know how much of a hassle it is, but through the software, it's like instant. And I have a little netbook that I got recently for the fact that I can keep it away from other computers with my software, but at the same time, if I take my pedal board to church with me to practice, I can also take that little netbook, and if I have to program and write something, and I want to do it easy and name that patch because, hey, you know, we liked it for that song, I have two options. I can write it down and modify it at home, or I can bring my laptop with me, my little tiny netbook, and fire up the board onto that program and program it that quick and name it, and I can do it that way too. So great for actually programming stuff when you're at gigs too. If you're on your break and you want to change a few things, you have your little netbook is all you need, plug it in, and you know the netbooks are more than powerful enough for doing this, which is another reason why I got it. You know, it's like I need some practicality for other things, right? But yeah, definitely it's a great board, you know. I'm liking the board. Now, it doesn't run on batteries. It is power supply dependent only through hydro. Even the GT-100 could not run on batteries, which is fine. Now, your expression pedal also can work many different functions as well, including as a wah. So you don't need a separate pedal for a wah if you don't want one, but you can hook other pedals up to this thing to do whatever functions you deem necessary. But otherwise, right now I have it set up as a volume pedal, you know. Now I also have the output control as well. It's set right at 12 o'clock, but I can lower this, say about here. Now, even though my amp is turned up to almost 9 o'clock on the dial, the pedal's maxed, right? So if I want to add a little bit more, just do that with my toe. So this is the most volume I want, and I want to, you know, use the wah. Okay, so then you can do that. So if you find a level that is going to be stage acceptable at full blast for your volume, and you want to switch over to that wah and use the pedal, but then be able to go back to this as a volume pedal, you want to try and figure out where that's going to work with your band and with the area that you're in. And maybe just jack it a little bit higher, because as a room fills up, it gets deadened out, sound gets absorbed. So you're going to probably want to push it a little bit closer, depending on where your amp is set up too. My amp right now, it's just in here. You know, like I said, it's only set at close to 9 o'clock on the dial, so it's not up very loud, you know, but it can still get pretty obnoxious in here even at those levels. You know, because a preamp is what these things are, no different than your pedals, but preamping pushes more in, so you're pushing more signal into that amp, which is actually causing it to be louder even at lower volumes. So, you know, that sort of thing. So anyway, it's got the you know, your MIDI in and out, your USB, your sub-control expression plug-in, amp control, send and returns, so you can go through your send and returns on your amp if you want. I'm going actually from the left mono out jack direct into the amp. Normally I actually have this board plugged into my mixing board, and then I can go direct to the computer that way. But for this video, of course, I just unplug it from the board and right into my amp, and I can use it that way. And away we go. Because I also wanted you guys to be able to see the board and hear the sound at the same time, you know, and without having to rearrange my whole room to put this thing up onto some kind of a stand and all that jazz. And, you know, I'm just trying to do the convenient thing here. And, you know, sound quality is going to depend, of course, on whatever amp you're using. All amps are different, you know, hands down. I mean, you know, I could do this video again on the Katana Mark II, and these effects are going to sound completely different than what you hear them now, even with the same recording device, you know, because all your amps are different. And same as your pickups and your guitars. They're all different too. I just happen to be using an Epiphone Les Paul Special 2, and it's a great little guitar. I'm actually loving this thing a lot. It's pretty awesome. Not bad. But anyways, now this thing is about roughly about 650-ish Canadian. You know, and that's not a bad deal. Actually, I think it was, let me just double check that price while we're here. This way I make sure it's the brand new price versus used. I got this as a used unit because I don't mind buying used stuff, you know, especially from Long McQuaid, because at least I know I can trust the stuff and I got warranties. And so we go GT-100. So you're looking at $659 brand new Canadian for this board. I actually paid a little bit less because it's a, you know, it was a rental that we had brought in. So being a used board, pay a little bit less, but I can't remember exactly what I paid, but it was still in that area. But $659 brand new. I mean, that's really good for the board. Still currently in the Boss lineup of boards that they're selling, so it's not obsolete by any means. Now, if you look at online written reviews and stuff, the average seems to be pushing about 4.5 stars, and I agree with that. I would definitely push this at an easy 4.5. It's not perfect though, you know, so you can't ever give it anything 5 stars. You know, no product deserves a 5-star. But 4.5 is actually quite adequate, and I would agree with it. Even being Cosm technology versus the new GT-1000 and its high-tech stuff, I really like this. I like the GT-1000 board too. It was actually a little bit smaller in size for the GT-1000. I mean, it was double the money. But it was also physically it was smaller in size, and it did have a few features extra that this doesn't have, which, you know, you can expect that for price point, right? Everything's going to have differences, but I still think that even the sound of the Cosm stuff, I mean, pros have been using Cosm tech for a long time. Anybody who's been using boards like this professionally, for years it's been Cosm. I mean, recently Boss got into, it was about a year ago, I guess now, or I can't remember exactly, but definitely a year ago. So when the GT-1000 got released with a new digitized technology and stuff, and you know, most guys are loving these boards, you know. There's not that many that don't like them, and I actually prefer the processor boards like this because, you know, you get a boatload of Boss effects. Even in this one, there's a boatload of effects. Even some I'll never use, you know, but they're easy to use. They're great for professionals. They're great for the amateur. You know, beginners, I would probably start them out at a little bit smaller type of board, you know, because, you know, you got to get them a taste of stuff. You just don't go, you know, gung-ho right away. There is tech to learn in every single board, and beginners, I think, should take it a little bit easier and maybe get like an ME80, start out with something like that, learn the software for that, and then move into something a little bit more advanced like this down the road. You know, and the ME80 is just a fine board as well. I really liked the ME80, but I only need one board. That's the thing. And so my final decision decided, well, I liked the 1000 a lot, but for my practicality uses and for what I'm going to be doing, and the simple fact is this still offers me the ability to arrange my pedal order any way I see fit, which is very important to all of us guys. You know, whether we're working with pedals or these boards, we need to be able to arrange those effects in whatever order in the chain we want. And the 100 offers that. The other GT board I had didn't offer it. And of course the ME80 is more of a basic board, so, you know, the ME80s and below don't offer those abilities. But this certainly does offer a boatload. And that's great stuff, and it is very simple and easy to use. I have a video on my channel too, if you haven't seen it yet, about a tour of the software with this, so if you want to check that video out as well, I also have a main demo video where we went through a whack load of stuff with it. But that's where I'm settled, and I think as far as the price tag for a brand new one, for $6.59 Canadian, I don't know what it is in US dollars, but $6.59 Canadian is definitely worth every penny in my books. Even the GT-100 is worth every penny still, you know, if you're looking at the 1000 series board, you know. Just depends on what your needs are, you know, and I don't hear a ton of difference. Like if I was going to go effect for effect, I don't hear a ton load of difference between the 100 and the 1000. But you do get a lot of other abilities with the 1000, obviously because of being double the price, more goodies, also more futuristic looking too. You know, you do get a lot more for your money in the 1000, but if it's not something you're looking into or you have a hard time choking down 1,300 bucks Canadian, this is more than going to be sufficient. And like I said, even for professional use, more than sufficient. It's great. And even I've used this on stage before too at church, and found it quite adequate for doing all the songs that we need to do that I used it for. And you know, you can change things on the fly very quick and easy, even just at this level of the board without going into here, okay, and adding other stuff or whatever. Just in this area to change, you know, some basic things like a little bit more gain or less gain, or you know, that sort of stuff. You have the ability to do that very quick and easy control down here, which is really nice. And you can instantly rewrite that patch too to save that setting. Because once you alter it, if you switch off and then back again, as we showed you earlier, and unless you write that change in, it's gone. Okay, it's only there as long as that effect is active with your change. So write it in and then it stays there, and then you can go back and forth all you want after that. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. We didn't plan on doing a whole lot of playing anyways today, just a little bit of basic bashing around on some chords and show you how the tuner works too, and a few other features. And I think it definitely deserves even that average rating of the 4.5 out of 5 stars. And price point, brand new, definitely worth every penny. Like I said, I paid a little bit less because it was used. And I'm happy with that price as well, you know, either way. Had they not had a used one available, I would have just gotten a brand new one. Not a big deal, you know. And I think this one's a keeper. I'm pretty sure that, because I'm out of options. It's, you know, it's either this or the GT-1000, and the 1000 was just way too much for my requirements, so this definitely fits and meets the bill for everything I'm going to do for the, you know, rest of my life probably. But we'll see, you never know. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, you know, feel free to ask. I'll do the best I can to answer them. If you have any further questions specific to this board, you know, you can download the manual for free, and you can read everything you need to possibly ever know about this board in the manual that they put in the manual. And there may be something that's not in the manual and you have a question about it, and just ask me about it, and if I got the answer for you, I'll definitely give you your answer and we can go from there. So anyways, see you later. Ciao.